From WWL-TV Channel 4, this is a special playoff edition of 4th Down on 4.
Won't you save me, San Francisco? Won't you save me, San Francisco?
You can't get to the Super Bowl without exercising some demons along the way. Welcome into our Eye on the Saints special, 4th Down on 4. I'm Juan Kincaid, and the demon I'm referring to, the Saints' playoff road woes. Finding success away from the Superdome when it counts the most has been a struggle for the black and gold, 0-4 all time. But there's a feeling within Saints Nation that this time, things will be different.
Breeze deep downfield. This time it's caught. Touchdown. And a quick toss to the outside for a touchdown. Caught by Graham.
Not since the 2009 season have the Saints been in this position.
Wide open is Meacham for a kill shot touchdown.
2 more wins from the Super Bowl.
San Francisco, here they come.
Saturday afternoon by the Bay is where the black and gold's next and greatest challenge to date lies. Some believe what came with relative ease in the Superdome won't at Candlestick, where when the winds blow, you feel it in your bones.
If there's wind, if there's precipitation, stuff like that. But like I said, you know, we always have a plan.
The plan needs to be foolproof for the weather and especially for their opponent. San Francisco's gone from fluke status to Super Bowl contender in its first season under head coach Jim Harbaugh. And their approach to winning, it's old school to the core.
They run the ball exceptionally well, and they're the #1 team in taking the football away, and they're the #1 team in protecting the football offensively.
Priority #1 for the Saints this weekend is to set the tone in the Niners' backyard, to show them that recent playoff experience matters. The Saints will march into San Francisco as slight favorites to take the next step to Super Bowl 46. Their steps must be firm in the soft turf. Their message must be clear and precise. It must cut through the brisk winds that make this park famous. Mistakes can't happen, not at this stage in the playoffs, because the Niners will capitalize.
Intercepted.
Just ask Pittsburgh. It's times like this when we're thankful for Drew Brees, our leader into battle, has been there and done this before. The expectation is the sun will shine on number 9, and the Saints will march on with a victory. We've been kind of saying this all week long, that something's got to give this Saturday. What the Saints like to do, the Niners love to stop. Scoring over 34 points a game are the Saints, while the Niners allow barely 14. The Saints can run up the yards, 467 per contest, but San Fran allows just 308 total, 4th best in the NFL. And then there's the turnover ratio. The Saints are -3, while creating turnovers is what the 49ers do best. Plus 28 is tops in the NFL. And we want to focus now a little bit more on the 49ers. So much of how well they played this season is a direct result of the head coach that they're playing for. Jim Henderson joins us live from San Francisco with more on the job that Jim Harbaugh's done, and this his first season at the helm. Jim?
Juan, this afternoon we began getting to know Coach Jim Harbaugh here in Santa Clara, I guess as well as anybody in the press gets to know him here. An overflow tent of media listened intently to Jim Harbaugh's final words for public consumption of the week. We had previously been warned what to expect.
Toward the end of the week, he's very short. Doesn't like to answer too many questions. His focus is there on the weekend.
No.
That's what you had scheduled?
Yeah.
He actually called himself moody. He said moody and complicated, and he laughed. But yeah, I guess you could say that, but it's very focused. He's always very focused as well, and with a purpose.
In fact, today he was downright expansive, according to the local media, who found him, like his team,
It's been focused, it's been loose, both of those at the same time. Pleased with our preparation, confident in our plan, happy the way the players prepared.
To do what he did here as a rookie head coach in the NFL will undoubtedly earn him Coach of the Year honors.
I don't think you can even quantify what he's done for this franchise. The talent was here before he got here, but to take a losing team and go and turn around and have a 13-3 regular season, more than anything, he got the players to believe. He got them in that right mindset because the talent was here, the drive was here, but he combined his football knowledge and his knowledge of the game and just getting his players to trust him. That's his biggest thing, and his players have said that. He'll go around and give up his first-class seat on the plane. He talks to the players in the lunchroom. He talks to them every chance he gets to find out how they're doing, and everything he talks to them about stays in-house. He will never throw a player under the bus in the media.
Nowhere has he done a better job than with a previously shell-shocked quarterback in Alex Smith, who had a different offensive coordinator every year. Smith quickly answered the questions a former quarterback like Harbaugh had in him.
Did he want to start? Did he want to be in the, in the fire, or did he want to wear the ball cap backwards and back up somewhere? I really felt that he had the competitive drive and the wanting to prove himself and wanting to do it here.
Harbaugh says the admonition of the week to his team has been
trust their own instincts, trust their gut, make it about the team, trust the team. A guy doesn't have to do too much. He's got to do his job and has the ability to trust his team because he's on a good team.
Juan, that's the story here in Santa Clara. Now back to you.
Jim, so much talk about the Saints' ability to succeed on natural grass. The Saints have been downplaying it all week, but have the Niners used it as motivation?
Well, I'm sure they'd like to think so. The 49ers were 7-1 at home this season, playing on that natural grass. But I think more than anything, it's going to be the elements that will really perhaps have a bearing on this game. The Saints have lost on grass this year in Tampa when the conditions were beautiful. They have won on grass in Tennessee in the coldest game of the year for the Saints. So I think more so than the grass, it'll be what kind of conditions will be here Saturday afternoon. And right now, the conditions call for temperatures around 60 degrees, winds between 5 and 10 miles per hour, and a 10% chance of rain. So I think the conditions really favor the Saints.
All right, Jimmy, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. We're just getting started with our Eye on the Saints special. Much more to get to, including a trip back out to the Bay Area in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Coming into Candlestick Park back in 1987, the Saints had won just 2 of their last 12 against San Francisco. But a ferocious dome patrol defense forced Steve Young out of the game thanks to a concussion, which brought an already injured Joe Montana in to relieve the southpaw. Montana and his injured hand were no match for the Saints' stingy defense, and a Morton Anderson 40-yard field goal was the difference in a 26-24 win as the Black and Gold ran off 9 straight wins to close out the strike-shortened season en route to their first playoff appearance in team history. Back in 1993, the Saints were coming off back-to-back playoff appearances, and the hope was high that the first postseason win was on the horizon, especially with a 3-0 start as the 49ers came to town. But as in years past, San Fran would not go away in the fourth quarter, tying the game on a Mike Kofer field goal. Quarterback Wade Wilson, who beat the Saints as a Viking in the 1987 playoffs, drove the Saints back down the field with just over a minute left in the game to set up, you guessed it, another Morton Anderson game winner.
Far enough. Good.
The 16-13 win kept the Saints undefeated, though they would lose 8 of their last 11 to miss out on the playoffs.
Whoop that in.
Such a memorable win for the Saints back in 1993, and if you're looking for a first-hand account of what went on then, just ask Mike Hoss. Before he crossed over to the dark side, Mike covered that game for WWL. He joins us now live from San Francisco with more. Mike?
It's been there the whole year.
Things have changed since 1993, really, for both football teams. The Niners once dominated the NFC. You don't have to tell Saints fans about that, as they well remember being with the Niners in the NFC West. But this is a rather new Niners team making their first postseason appearance since 2002. Tonight, we spoke with Ray Ratto, a writer with Comcast Sportsnet, and he's covered this team for more than 3 decades.
You've covered this football team for a long time, and you've seen the ups and downs. What does it mean for this city to have them back where they are?
I think there's 2 levels of 49er fan. The smug people who want to wait till it's done and then say, I've been following them since the 30s. And then there are people who sort of like the surprise. This is a little bit like 81 because it was sort of out of context. Nobody had a lot of hope for them, you know. New coach, same roster, lockout, not a lot of time to put stuff in. So this is the one for the giddy fans. The cynical, well, what have you done for me in the last 15 minutes? They show up next year.
A lot's been made of whether the Saints football team can do well outside of the elements. They were 3-2 on the road, outdoors, but the weather here, quite frankly, somewhat abnormal. Been in the mid-60s, very dry. Do you think the weather's going to play any factor?
No, the field will be a little sticky because it always is, because it's basically below sea level. But if that's the reason why New Orleans loses, then they deserve to lose, because it's not Green Bay at the end of December. You know, it's not Giant Stadium when it's snowing. It's a playable place. The field's not awful. But, I mean, as a speed team, they'd like to be on turf, but it shouldn't be a factor. It would only really hurt him if it was pouring down rain, which it rarely does out there.
Frank Gore averaging about 5 yards a carry. That's been somewhat of the Achilles heel for the Saints defense, stopping the run. How big of a factor do you think that's going to be, the Saints' ability to stop him?
I think the game's going to hinge on whether the 49er defense can keep the Saints in the mid-20s. I mean, Gore's going to get his, but he's been getting his most of the year, and they're still sort of a very average offense. They don't convert third downs. They're lousy in the red zone. So, I mean, Gore could get 90 yards. They could still end up with 16. I think the difference is going to be whether the 49ers can keep the Saints within arm's reach. Because if they get to 31, 49ers aren't scoring 31 on anybody who isn't really bad. So I think that's where the game's going to be won or lost.
Alex Smith, 27 years old. He's had 7 coordinators and a new coordinator every year. What is his mental framework, do you think, right now? It's his debut in the postseason. How much is going to be on his shoulders?
A fair amount, but I think he has figured out, basically through a lot of work with Jim Harbaugh, that the low-risk, high-reward offense that requires a lot of preparation is his best ticket, because he's really smart. He's always been a good practice quarterback, and the only way he gets in trouble is when he's asked to do extraordinary athletic things, because he's not an extraordinary athletic quarterback. He's got a good arm, but it's not great. He's got decent feet, but he's not fast. I mean, he really is a guy who thrives on preparation, and if it's a game where his preparation is going to be paramount, he'll do fine. If he's got to start running around, if he's got to start making throws into traffic, if he's got to start hitting a guy 45 yards down the field, that's where the struggle's going to come, because he's not exceptional, but he's really efficient when he's on his game.
How much do you think Greg Williams' defense and his ability to be aggressive? Smith was sacked 44 times, led the league. Where does that matchup go?
It's going to be a factor, because if he starts getting harried, Smith is going to have to make decisions quickly in chaos, and he's not a good quarterback in chaos. Very few of them are. So I think, if they can bring the pressure that they brought, put Smith into positions where he's either got to throw on the run or has to throw into a lot of traffic.
44 times the most in the NFL, and Ratto believes it'll probably be that red zone. That'll be the difference. The Niners have struggled there. He feels they are a football team that can't go field goal to touchdown with the Saints mathematically. That will not bode well for the Niners, though. It bodes great for the New Orleans Saints in getting that first road playoff win. Juan?
Mike, I know you talked during our newscast earlier about a number of New Orleanians living out there, but Saints fans have landed all across the nation since Hurricane Katrina. They found plenty there. Are you expecting to see a bunch of Saints fans traveling across to the west for the game?
We found some, you know, it wasn't too hard to, it's not too hard to find some New Orleans fans. You put it out on Facebook. And so the question is, how many will make this trip? It's not an easy trip. Certainly a lot of fans might have said, maybe I'll spend some post-Christmas money and buy some LSU tickets. Sorry about that. Or maybe they say, let's roll the dice and save some money and go to Green Bay. Or maybe they say, let's roll the dice twice. I'm going to save my money for Indianapolis. We're meeting a group of people tomorrow at the airport early on. There will be Saints fans here. How many? Somewhat questionable. The ones that'll be here will be loud and clear. Juan?
And we know it, Mike. Thanks a lot. Still ahead, we keep you in studio and break down the game with WWLTV.com's Bradley Handwerker. But first, remember this? The 2006 season brought Drew Brees and Sean Payton to New Orleans, along with an NFC Championship berth. And while this 49ers game wasn't as close as some others, it was a breakout game for rookie running back Reggie Bush, who actually grew up a Niners fan. Bush scored all 4 touchdowns in the 34-10 win. The Saints got the better of his high school teammate Alex Smith, who threw 3 picks on this afternoon, 2 snagged by Mike McKenzie. The Saints went on to win the division and finished 1 game short of their first Super Bowl. The Saints traveled to the city by the Bay for an early Monday night matchup last season. Though the 49ers tied the game at 22, thanks to a touchdown and 2-point conversion with just 1:19 left in the game, this game is remembered for the Saints' last-minute drive to get into field goal range, thanks to Marcus Colston's 30-yard reception. Garrett Hartley's last-second field goal was tipped, but still found its way through the upright as the Saints claimed a 25-22 win on their way to an 11-5 record and a playoff berth. All right, now joined with Bradley Handwerker at WWLTV.com. Look, 2010 seems like a decade ago when it comes to describing that Niner team then and the Niner team now, doesn't it?
It does, and I think if you look at the roster, it's probably not a heck of a lot different, but there's one key difference, and that's Harbaugh. And he has changed the confidence of that team. You look at something Drew Brees said, I think it was last week, about how when he came here, he had confidence, but Sean Payton brought the ultimate confidence out of him. And I think you're seeing that with San Francisco. I mean, it's a team that struggled somewhat under Singletary, and now all of a sudden they're 13-3 and hosting a playoff game.
Saints released the injury report today, and if you look at it, Vilma's been on there all year pretty much. But I think the key one is Roman Harper. How concerned should they be with that ankle injury?
Neither of them are concerned. Vilma got the Veterans Day off today. You know, he's out there practicing yesterday. It was a long flight over to San Francisco. I wouldn't worry about him. And Roman, I think, you know, they wanted to make sure he was okay early in the week, and he's going to be getting better, and he's running around fine. I wouldn't worry about him at all.
Roman's a huge key because the way the Niners play, run first, pass second, Roman will fill that other linebacker spot and give him 4 across the back. He's huge.
Kind of the old 4-4 formation. Yeah. I think that he's going to be healthy enough. I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, with Roman, I think the real key isn't going to be in the run stop, because we know, as we saw earlier, Frank Gore's going to get his yards. It's how he does on Vernon Davis. It's how he does guarding the tight end, and that's a tough matchup for him. Yet, as we've seen later in the season, he's actually done well. We haven't seen the old tight end pop and get lots of yards like we used to see last year.
That makes this game kind of similar to the Seattle game of a year ago, in that they're facing a team on the road, difficult place to play, facing a team that plays defense really well, and they're facing a team that runs the ball first. It's almost identical, except San Fran's a better team than Seattle isn't.
It is, but I mean, I think the Saints are a better team than they were last year. They're a more confident team. They've won 9 in a row. And I think Roman, we like to harp on the mistakes, but he's improved this year. He's improved his pass coverage. He's improved in his run stop. He's one of the top safeties in the league when it comes to sacks. I think that we put maybe too much pressure and too much, I don't know, try to make him feel too guilty for what he does. That Seattle game was an eternity ago at this point, and I'm just not sure his coverage is going to be as much of a concern as we make it out to be.
Jonathan Vilma and Frank Gore have a mutual respect for each other. A lot of history there as well, right?
high school together, college together. Now, you know, they're playing against each other in the pros. They talk to each other, not on a weekly basis, but, you know, fairly often during the season. Jonathan said he likes to talk to Frank and tell him he's doing well and that he's running the ball well. But asked him, you know, if he talked this week, he said, my family needs tickets, that's about it.
It's all about the grass. So much made about the Saints' ability to play outdoors and be successful. Is that an afterthought with this football team?
I think it's made way too much more than it needs to be. Look, they went out to San Francisco last year and won. They played on a slippery surface in Green Bay, and while they didn't win, they didn't play, you know, the offense wasn't hampered at all by that. I think what it's going to come down to is what team is better. It's not going to matter whether it's on grass or on turf.
Saints going to have to be able to run the ball, though. Can they run against this Niner defense, which is #1 in the league, and stopping the run? Can they do it? They don't have to do a lot, but they have to get those linebackers from cheating.
I think they'll be able to get a couple of yards. You're not going to see a 167-yard performance like you did last week, but I also don't think this team needs to run to win. They just need to show some runs to win. Look at the Atlanta game at Atlanta earlier in the season. They ran the ball very infrequently, and yet they won. It was close, but they won.
We call you a guest, but you're really family, Bradley. We do appreciate you being on with us tonight.
Thank you, brother.
All right, brother,
Like
no
a brother
problem. Stay with us. We put a cap on our Saints special after the break. From one show to another, Saturday night from 10 to 11, we'll have another Saints special to bring you, using the full hour to wrap things up in San Francisco. Again, Saturday night, 10 p.m. right here on Channel 4. You know, game time is almost upon us. Keep it right here on Channel 4 for all of your pre- and post-game coverage. For Jim Henderson, Mike Hoss, and Bradley Handwerger, I'm Juan Kincaid. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you again next Saturday night to wrap up the Saints and Niners from San Fran. Have a good night.